live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com. This is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Thank you, John. Oh, man. So now we have a government in power for the next 3 years that only 18% of eligible voters cast ballots for in the last election. 82% of voters did not want the NDP. They did not vote for the NDP, 82%. But we got them in power anyway. Conservative interim leader Candice Bergen is absolutely right when she says the backroom secret deal signed between Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau essentially hands power to the NDP. And John, I think you agree on this, that essentially the NDP is in power because if they decide that they don't agree with the Liberals on something, or the Liberals don't agree with them, that they can obviously put the Liberals out.
100%. I mean, Pierre Poilievre last night in his post, as he was driving back from Montreal to Ottawa, said, he would like a no confidence vote. Well, he can't do that so long as he has the minority or the smaller numbers. And against the NDP and Liberal coalition, he has the smaller numbers.
We did not vote for a majority government. We sure as hell didn't vote for a majority left-wing government. Excuse me, but that's what we got, folks. Secret backroom deal. Among other things, we know what it means. Deeper and deeper debt. And perhaps even worse, our oil and gas industry crippled, if not totally destroyed. The NDP, please don't forget, is hotly opposed to pipelines and liquid natural gas projects. Thus, for the next 3 years, folks, our country will be plunged deeper and deeper into debt. The carbon tax will be more than doubled. And our number one industry, private industry, oil and gas, will essentially be driven out of the country. I mean, today we can't even supply our own country, all of our own country, with oil and gas. 3 years from now, we will still be forced to buy oil and gas from places like Saudi Arabia, and possibly by that time, again, Russia. How can this happen? This is not what we voted for. We voted for a minority liberal government. It's a devastating blow. Listen, and don't take my word for it. You can check these things yourself, folks, okay? Look, if an 85-year-old guy can make his way through the website, the government website, and find out these facts, so can you. You're a hell of a lot smarter on computers than I am. But I'm trying to tell you right now that the national debt in this country is now in excess, that means it's more than $1.3 trillion. By far the largest national debt this country's ever had, including during wartime. Interim payment. Now, you may not, a lot of people don't care. Well, our kids can pay for it. Grandkids, great-grandkids, great-great-great-great-grandkids. But we got to pay the interest payments today, every single month. And every single month, today, our interest payments on that national debt are more than $1 billion. I've said this many times before. Nobody seems to care. That's $1 billion, more than $1 billion every single month that's not available for health care or dental care. It's just gone from your pocket into the pockets of the rich. People, institutions rich enough to loan money to government. And so that's today. But 3 years of essentially an NDP government, God knows where we'll be. God knows what the interest payments will be. And perhaps even more germane to this, where the hell are we going to get the money to pay the interest? With our number one industry destroyed, gas and oil, number one private employer in the country destroyed, because they will. There is absolutely no question. Don't forget, we have, as the environment minister in this country, one of the original eco terrorists. This guy was arrested for some of the actions that he carried out, opposed to pipelines. So now we've got this guy joined with the NDP that's hotly opposed, along with the Green Party, to pipelines of any kind, and perhaps even worse, opposed to liquid natural gas projects. You know, I said this yesterday. I've been remiss in not really understanding or pointing out how vital to the world's economy natural gas is. This guy, I always talk, and many other people talk about, we've got the world's third largest supplies of oil in the country here, but we also have one of the world's largest supplies of natural gas. And natural gas is very clean burning. In fact, the European Union has now declared that nuclear and natural gas are green energy. And the way that we can get our natural gas to foreign markets is through LNG, that is liquid natural gas projects. They liquefy natural gas, and then we can load it aboard tankers and send it to Europe or send it to anybody. But it's not only have pipelines been canceled in this country and delayed seriously, but 18, and I pointed this out again yesterday, I'll keep doing it. Since Justin Trudeau took over, no fewer than 18 different LNG, liquid natural gas projects have been canceled, crippled, or so burdened with red tape that the operators, the private enterprise, has just backed away. 18. So we still don't have a liquid natural gas project in this country. Europe today cries out for oil and natural gas. We have plenty of it, and we can't get it to them. We can't get it to our own people. But that's today. Can you just freaking imagine what's going to happen in 3 years' time with the NDP in power? I mean, we might as well turn this country over to the Green Party. How does that grab you? Because essentially that's what we've got here, folks. I hesitate to tell you this, but excuse me. I was broadcasting in Toronto when Bob Rae was head of the NDP government in Ontario, and he was rapidly bankrupting the province. Unemployment rate, so he increased social payments, welfare payments by 20%. Didn't insist that anybody take a job. They got welfare anyway, and the welfare rolls more than doubled in this province in the space of 2 years. And I could go on with many other things that he did. One of the most evil men that ever walked the planet when he was premier. I was hotly opposed. It was terrible. We were on the verge of bankruptcy. Some of you who were around in those days, or still have a memory, will remember Rae days. The international banks warned us that if we didn't stop somehow or other in spending all of this money, that there would be an international default, that no one would loan us money. We would be up the creek without a paddle. And he, in order to try and get some more money, he declared Rae days. People in the public service had to work for several days with no pay. They were called Rae days. That's how bad it was. I'll tell you the story. I invited Bob Rae, he's premier of the province. I've got the number one show in Toronto. I invited him on the show. We went at it so hot and heavy that there was a time there when I think we came fairly close to blows. And to be honest with you, if it had come to blows, I don't think too many people would have held me guilty. But I was smart enough, even in those days, to realize that punching out the premier of the province was probably not a good idea.
Probably
so
not.
finally, but that's how, I mean, and the left-wing media, the Toronto Star, supported this. I mean, it was unbelievable. I was one of the few spokespeople in Toronto, in all of Toronto, and the province, for all I know, who was opposed to this hotly. Said, you're destroying the province, Mr. Premier. You can't do this. Oh, no, no. So finally, it got so bad. I said to the Premier, I said, we can't continue like this. I understand you're a very good piano player. There's a piano in the studio here. What do you say we just finish out the program with you playing us a couple of tunes? Which he did. I've never told this story before.
That's beautiful, man.
But it's true. That's how bad it was. And as I
Oh.
say, I seem to be about the only guy that could see the danger we were headed for. So what I am saying is that was the NDP then. So you say, well, yeah, but this is Jagmeet Singh. Are we going to be saddled with the same kind of reckless spending and job destruction as we saw under Bob Rae? Well, let me say this, okay? Bob Rae was a left-wing socialist when he was in power in Ontario. Jagmeet Singh is even further to the left than Bob Rae ever was. Far more of a promoter of big government and wild spending than Bob Rae even. But he is something else that scares the bejabbers out of me that Bob Rae was not. Jagmeet Singh is a radical environmentalist. He believes we must stop burning fossil fuels immediately, today, or the planet's going to burn up. And he has shown time and time again he cares nothing about our major private employer and provider of wealth, the oil and gas industry. He will do everything in his power to destroy our number one industry in this country. And he cares not a whit about the people who work. We've seen this even from the Liberals. Couldn't care less about it. In 3 years' time, with Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau in charge, God help us, because nobody else will be able to. That's one aspect, a vital one. But there's also the question of saddling Canada with something that very few of us want. Even if you voted Liberal, you voted for a Liberal minority. And let's never forget, the popular vote, actually the Conservatives won the popular vote. So here we have a situation where the party that won the popular vote is in opposition but can do nothing. Because essentially now we have a majority government with the NDP joining with the Liberals. When Trudeau and Singh get finished with us in 3 years' time, I predict that Canada will be teetering on the brink of third world status. I may be overstating it, but hey, folks, I was right. I was right when I predicted what was going to happen with green energy under Kathleen Wynne, Dalton McGuinty. I was right when I tackled Bob Rae, and I believe that I'm right this time. We are headed for a very serious situation. Wild spending, and even worse, destroying the ability to pay for it. There will be no attempt in the next 3 years to lower the debt. That's for sure. The debt will only increase. My prediction is that the debt now is 1.3 billion, that in 3 years' time it's probably going to be closer to about 1.5 or 1.6 trillion. And that the interest payments will be very close to $1.5 billion every single month. That's my prediction. And I hope I'm wrong. But listen, folks, can I ask you this? If you believe in prayer, would you please start right now? Because we need something. We need something. And on another topic, very briefly, looks like Belarus is now going to join the attack against Ukraine. So once again, I ask the question, can we in the West, NATO, still sit idly by and watch an innocent, democratic nation be pounded into dust and its women and children slaughtered like animals? Can we just sit there and do nothing? And I remind you, we are now almost into a month, and we still have not a single refugee into this country. Don't believe the Liberals when they say, oh, there's 9,000. That's since January 1st. Those are not refugees. We have not allowed, other than a couple of children, God bless the Toronto Sick Children's Hospital, a couple of children and their families who are being treated for cancer, the children in the hospital. Other than that, not a single refugee in almost a month. I don't know, folks. Maybe that's all we can do. You may have some thoughts on that. John, What are we hearing from people here?
I cannot keep up with the comments today. Lowell, you've got them all fired up already, but here we go. We'll dive in. Again, we'd love your phone calls, 613-413-2217. You can text that number as well. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, and we are on Twitter, so you can post your comments where you ordinarily would. All right, Peter says, anyone tell Freeland the NDP is now the deputy leader of the government? Brenda says, how is this even legal? Sounds like a dictatorship to me.
Well, it is legal. I believe that, and nobody cares about, or very few people care about morality. I believe it's very immoral. This is not what people voted for, including those who voted for the NDP and including those who voted for the Liberal. You did not vote for an NDP Liberal majority government. This country voted for a minority Liberal government. A minority government means that at any given time, the government can be defeated. But because it is now joined in this unholy coalition, they say it's not, but it is, we now have a majority government. But as Candace Bergen says, it's a majority government with the NDP in power. I don't believe this country will ever vote or would ever vote for an NDP government, particularly not in these times. But that's what we've got. But that's not what voters wanted. That is not what voters voted for. So we've got what we did not want. Only 18% of eligible voters cast ballots for the NDP last time. So with only about 60% of people voting, so you figure it out. So probably less than 10% of this country has indicated it wants an NDP government. But that's what we've got. Go ahead, John, please.
Craig calls it an illegitimate government. This person is messaging us through the website. I did not vote for this. I'm so distressed I have considered hanging my flag upside down as a sign of distress over what is happening to my country. A text at 613-413-2217. Lowell, the NDP and the Liberals are all the same. They all have the same ideals. Now we have Justin Singh running the country, something that Canadians did not vote for. Joining forces like that should only be allowed for separate votes, not permanently. I believe there's something coming down. Otherwise, why is NDP announcing this? Asks Cheryl. Let me see. Let's go to Lisa. Unless the voting system in this country changes, we'll be stuck with this corrupt bunch of commies for a long, long time. Peter's on Facebook. He chimes in to say the NDP is another pop culture social media tool user, silk-tied socialist. Him and Trudeau are best buddies. No real difference between these two leaders.
You know, it's a silk tie. I love that. Here, the dichotomy is, the hypocrisy is astonishing. Here is Jagmeet Singh, a lovely man. A lot of women find him very attractive, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is that this guy wears $1,000 suits, and he heads so-called this party of the working class. How can you wear a $1,000 suit and represent the working class? It beats the hell out of me. Like I say, folks, if you believe in prayer, please start now, because if God doesn't help us, I don't know who is. Go ahead, John.
Chrissy's on Twitch. She says, if our vote doesn't count anymore, why bother to vote? Cheryl says, I totally agree with you. Lowell. Jerry says, Singh is now de facto ruler of Canada. Let the reset begin. Carrie says, Jagmeet Singh might as well be made the prime minister. Shelter housing prices have increased 100% with Trudeau in office, says Gregory. Lisa is back to say Trudeau is nothing without his buddy Singh to back him. What was the purpose of Singh announcing they backed the Liberals? We all knew this. Was he rubbing our faces in it?
But this is different. Essentially, in the past, the NDP always reserved the right to bring the government down, because if they don't vote for the government is finished. Trudeau is finished. But now they have indicated that they're going to continue to support for 3 years. So essentially, we are stuck with an NDP Liberal coalition. They don't want to use that word, but that's what it is, for the next 3 years. In other words, we're going to have Singh essentially running this country for the next 3 years. And that's not what we voted for. I got to take a moment here to talk about somebody that I would vote for tomorrow. Shields, up there in Pakenham. In fact, I'd vote for Pakenham. You've been to Pakenham? It's a great little town. But better than that, here's a company that's been in Pakenham for, well, since 1947. Same family. I don't know how many businesses. There are all kinds of local businesses around. God bless them all. But I don't think there are too many businesses that have been in the same family since essentially the Second World War. But that's what Shields is. Three generations. Grandfather, father, and now the son. And they run a hell of a good business. They do very well. Thank you very much. And one of the reasons that they do well is the pricing is very, very competitive. And of course, in many ways, they can beat the delivery day. I still hear from people going to the big box stores because that's where they've gone before, and they got to wait a month or longer for their appliance. Not at Shields. They have a huge warehouse there in Pakenham, takes up about half of Pakenham, and every kind of appliance you could possibly want is there, ready for delivery. Give them, as I've said this before, at the very least, give them a shot. Give them a chance. They're local, they're good, family operated, and they'll have your appliance within a few days. At least give them a chance. The website is very easy to decipher. Even I can do it. Shields.ca. John, back to you, my boy.
Canada's honest people capital, Pakenham, says Laurentian Drew Terry. All right, Anne says, what's the point of the Conservatives or the Bloc showing up for debates or votes?
Very true.
Yep.
All I can do is good old Pierre Poilievre. He's by far the best one at trying to hold the Liberals' feet to the fire. But
I'll grant you that.
Yeah, there was always the chance that he could be persuasive enough to bring the government down. I mean, God knows all of the scandals and so forth that under normal circumstances would have brought the government down. But now he can't do that. He knows he's going to stand there. He'll continue to pound away. God bless him. But he knows that there's nothing he can do. And that they'll just be laughing because they know it doesn't matter. He can say whatever he wants. We're here for 3 years. You can like it or lump it. Go ahead, John, please.
613-413-2217. We invite your calls. All right. Murray says you are 100% on today. Arthur says the NDP will get everything they want as long as they keep Justin in power. Let's take care of a couple of emails here. The address is Lowell at blasttheradio.com. First up, Nicole. She says, Dear Mr. Green, I have a question. How do we stop this coalition between Liberals and NDP? I voted Conservative. I never voted for this. What about the Liberals and NDP? Did they vote for that coalition, Liberals, NDP? How can the taxpayers stop this? What can we do? I feel so controlled by this government. It scares me. Seriously, Trudeau is not well.
That's the point. There's nothing we can do. Essentially, we voted. We voted for a minority government. A minority government means that at any given time on any given issue, it can be defeated. That's what a minority government is. It keeps the government very honest. They've got to do what the people want or they're out of power. No longer. We voted for a minority government. We now have a majority government, a left-wing government. And the money is one aspect. We know it's going to be wildly spending. But I think in the long run, even more damaging will be the destruction or the serious crippling of our number one employer in this country, oil and gas. Not only do we need it, the world needs it. We've got it, and we won't be able to supply it. To me, that's tragic. It plays right into the hands of countries like Saudi Arabia, Russia, etc., because they have it, and they're selling it, and they have no compunction whatsoever. So what we're doing, in essence, is supporting governments, in the case of Saudi Arabia, that whips women who show an ankle, refuses to allow women equal rights, etc., and supporting a country that has now invaded a poor, innocent, democratic country and pounding it into dust, killing women and children. And because we can't supply Europe with oil or gas and won't in 3 years, what we're doing essentially is helping to destroy Ukraine. That may be a long bow, but it's true, folks. If we had gone ahead with Energy East, supplied, we would be able to supply and the LNG project, we would be able to supply Europe probably with enough oil and gas to supplant that being provided by Russia. This essentially would have shut the Russian economy right down. The anti-pipeline people have done this. In my view, what they have done is totally immoral. They are helping to destroy a wonderful nation. Go ahead, please, John.
On Facebook, Bev says socialist government now in power. Who voted the A majority? On YouTube, Hines says if Trudeau got his wish with his electoral reform bill when he first ran for office, he wouldn't be prime minister. We need reform in the election system. Toronto seems to decide every federal election. Jim says, on a lighter note, Lowell, could you please straighten out the frame pictures in your office? I'm finding it hard to concentrate on the show.
It's an optical illusion. Well, yeah, it does. Yeah, now that I'm looking, it does look like
I think the wide angle lens on the camera creates that illusion, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
All right, new camera on the way for Lowell. Craig says, get ready to be censored, Lowell, and everyone else. Jean-Francois, you've got a long comment there. I did put it on the screen. Facts to consider. I recently researched how horrible the cost of living must be in Russia. I mean, with the Russia ruble dropping half its value, they have issues selling their number one export oil. Many financial institutions stop providing services. Almost the whole world has sanctions on Russia. Russia is fighting a war, blockades, and trade, etc.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to point out a few things. And that is with the dramatic increase in the price of oil, Russia, the millions and millions of extra dollars are pouring in. And as far as the bank, they shut down one major bank, but there's still two. They allowed two major Russian banks to continue. Why? So that Germany and France and those countries buying Russian oil and gas would have the means to pay for it. So don't buy this argument, about the terrible sanctions. There are sanctions there, but they don't seem to be affecting Russia all that much. Go ahead.
All right. Carrie was worried about your pictures too. So there you go. We've put a lot of mind to these today. We got 3 or 4 texts to get to here. 613-413-2217. Both Trudeau and Singh are power hungry, but the NDP know if an election is called, they would be sure done. Next text. Is there something we can do to stop this coalition? Asks this person.
No. Our ability to bring this government down is now finished. We are stuck for 3 years here. Simple as that. That's what I'm talking about, folks. We're stuck with this for 3 years. We are stuck with a government that will continue to spend wildly, make no attempt to lower the debt, and at the same time do everything it can to destroy our number one industry, oil and gas. Go ahead, John.
Yep, I wanted the same thing last night. Again, when I saw Pierre Poilievre on his video that he posted as he was driving back from Montreal, he said he, would like a no confidence vote. Well, he can't. There are 338 seats. The Liberals have 159. The NDP have 35. Combined, it's 194. The difference is 169. You can't. You just can't even call that. Here we go. Just consider the track record of the NDP when they've controlled various government entities across Canada over the past 40 years, says Bruce. Almost all went bankrupt. Recall Alberta's Heritage Fund, squandered by an NDP government.
Well, I keep referring to what happened in Ontario under Bob Rae. Those of you who remember Rae days, remember. We were warned by international banking that we either had to curb expenses and get more revenue in, or essentially we would be shut off. And I mean that if that happened, and what they're saying is that the way we finance debt right now is we sell bonds. Well, if you reach a point where there's no chance that you can repay the debt, they'll stop. The banks will move in and say you can't sell bonds anymore. So in other words, we're up the creek without a paddle. Go ahead, please.
An email from Lisa. Again, the address is lowell@blasttheradio.com. I truly hope to see pharmacare, dental, and better healthcare overall, and hope it's not a pipe dream. Being alive is not the same as living. Not having proper health.
That's fine, Lisa. Where are we going to get the money to pay for it? All of these things are nice, no question about it. I as far as I'm concerned, we should all have free automobiles, in fact, free houses. Why not?
Sure.
But, let's just buy everybody a brand new house. Give them a brand new car. Hell, give them 2 brand new cars. If we're not going to worry about paying for it, why not? Go ahead, please.
Lisa says the Conservatives need to entice a few blue Liberals across the floor. Either that or they have to buy the media a la Trudeau. Jerry says the best we can hope for is that Trudeau and Singh have a fight over something and the NDP pulls out of the deal. Could happen if they both think they are in charge.
Not going to do that.
Craig says we all know Bob Rae was a Liberal in sheep's clothing. Peter on Facebook, a few reporters asked Trudeau about people who voted Liberal, but now they have Liberal NDP. What about them? Trudeau deflected that to say Canadians want Parliament to work together. And on Facebook, whatever has happened to the NDP, Jack Layton must be turning over in his grave. Is Singh clueless that people are hurting today over the cost of living? Who cares about dental, drugs, and daycare, which won't be sorted out for years if it even transpires? What about the cost of living? With these two in charge, it will get worse, not better, and there will be no development of our natural resources, which could have led us out of this debt hole. We are
You're
so
right. You know, whoever wrote that, you're
That's Ann.
bang on, sir. Who is
Ann.
it? Ann.
And yeah,
Bang on. Absolutely. Deeper and deeper into debt and less ability to pay the debt, to pay the interest on the debt. That's what we're faced with. We're right at a time here, and I'll just say this again, folks. If you believe in prayer, start today. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.